Hi everyone! In this video we are going to show you how to work with the Post and Media Gallery modules grids layouts from Masonry to Metro to Fluid and Gallery Justify styles. In this specific video, we are going to use the Posts module with a query to portfolio, but almost all the options presented are also available for the Media Gallery module. In fact, the Post module and the Media Gallery module are virtually identical, and they save the same settings, apart from a few options and the fact that one is used to display custom post types and the other media files. When working with grids, the first group of variations are the ones achievable through our unique implementation of the isotope script, which is an evolution of the famous Masonry plugin. Within the Layout Mode dropdown, there are various layout methods: Masonry, Fit Rows, Cell by Row, Vertical, and Packery. Let's discover them all. Masonry is default layout mode. Items are arranged in a vertically cascading grid. In a few words, it works by placing elements in optimal position based on the available vertical space, sort of like a mason fitting stones in a wall. In Fit Rows, items are arranged into rows. Rows progress vertically, similar to what you would expect from a layout that uses CSS floats. Fit Rows works amazing for items that have similar, or even better, the same height. Cell by Rows is a vertical grid layout, where items are centered inside each cell. It is important to remember that for a script limit, when using this creative mode, the first thumbnails must be the biggest of all. And in case, this can be adjusted with the single tab options of the Post module presented in a dedicated video. Vertical is a layout where items are stacked vertically. This is useful when creating vertical layouts where thumbnails occupy the entire width available. Packery. The Packery layout mode is pretty similar to the Masonry layout, but it uses a bin packing algorithm. This is a fancy way of saying it fills empty gaps. Many times you will not see the difference with Masonry, except that possible gaps will be filled. These are the main layout variations available from the Layout Mode dropdown. I'll give you an example. This is the Masonry. You can see that the elements are arranged as bricks. This is the Fit Rows. You see they're divided into rows. This is Cell by Row. And this is the vertical. I won't show you the Packery because in this case it is the same as Masonry. Now let's explore the Module tab, where there are options, as suggested by the name, that controls the module's general properties. Among these options there is the layout style that we will see shortly, the background color of the module that is self-explanatory, and the filters option that allows the reordering of the elements according to the categories applied to each element. Let's activate this one. As you can see now, we have several options to style the filters menu. Let's test some of them. I activate the filtering. The filter menu full width. I set the filter position to right, show all opposite, and filter menu uppercase. Perfect. As you can see now, we have the filter menu and we can filter our items by categories. For example, web, adv, branding, design, photo, and let's show them all again with show all. Then there are the pagination and the infinite mode options that make possible to paginate all the elements in the loop or to load more elements automatically when scrolling, or with a Read More button. The gap option controls the horizontal and the vertical spacing between the thumbnails. The value is progressive and uses presets that are the same you find many times referenced in Uncode. They follow the main Uncode grid system horizontal and vertical rhythm. Gap control is useful because with this option you can completely change the look and feel of your module. When you work on a design, don't underestimate the power of white spaces. Let's try, for example, a 1-pixel gap, which of course would be nicer only with the media without the title under the thumbnail. Or a double spacing gap, or a triple spacing gap, which would be nice with a full width section. Come on, let's try setting this row in full width mode. I open the row settings and change the content width option to full. Perfect, now I really like it. Let's focus again on the options of the post module. Below the gap options, there is the element list. In a few words, these represent the elements that are included in the thumbnails, like the image, the title, the text, and so on. Please refer to the thumbnails dedicated tutorial video for more information. Anyway, let's do a quick test. For example, let's try removing the title since I mentioned it earlier. There we are. As you can see, we've removed this element from the thumbnails. Since I was talking about it before, and now we are without the title, let's try to remove the gap completely. Here we go. I really like this layout. OK, now let's set a double gap, add the title again, and maybe even the text element with 100 characters limit. Done! As you can see, in very few clicks, we've completely transformed our module. Well, I removed the text since when working with portfolios, I like a minimal layout. After that, there are the off-grid controls, thanks to which it's possible to move some thumbnails along the vertical axis and create very interesting creative effects. You can set if the off-grid elements are the even, the odd, or even insert your matrix. Here you can see a test with odd, and here a test with even. An example is the portfolio metro layout from our demo. As you can see, the thumbnails don't all start at the same height, but the first one is moved up out of its natural position. Pretty interesting variation. Let's remove the option for this tutorial as it is very particular. The last group of options at the bottom of the Module tab are the breakpoints. In this group of options, it is possible to define the breakpoints, above which the grid is arranged on a new line. In fact, if, for example, you have a grid with 3 thumbnails, depending on the specified breakpoints, the thumbnails will be repositioned on a new line to ensure optimal readability. When the width of the module container reaches one of these values in pixels, the breakpoint is triggered. Here we can see how, when we resize the browser and the available width is equal to one of the breakpoints, the blocks are rearranged into a new line. For example, you can see that on tablet we have 2 elements, while on this mobile device we have only 1 element. By default, the last breakpoint indicates 1 thumbnail, but if, for example, you enter a very low value for the breakpoint that will not be reached by any mobile device, you will have a mobile grid of 2 thumbnails. Breakpoints values help you to adjust your design on various devices according to the specific needs of your layout. All the layout variations seen right now are based on the natural size occupied by the thumbnails, given by the height of the media plus the height of the possible textual elements, in this case, the title. In a few words, the height of the thumbnail is the natural height of the contents. You can control the width and the ratio, but not the height. There is also another advanced mode identified as Metro Layout. One example is the portfolio metro we were looking at earlier. If we remove, the off-grid option becomes clear. You can use the metro layout for any situation in which you need a tightly aligned grid, which the edges of a thumbnail fit perfectly within a grid. To use this layout method, Navigate to the tab General in your Postal Media Gallery module settings and select or verify you have selected the Masonry mode. After that, switch to the tab module and choose Metro under the Layout Style drop-down menu. To better understand the Metro and how precise it is, I set the gap between the thumbnails to 1 pixel. When you select the Metro option in the Blocks tab, in addition to the thumbnail width control, the thumbnail's height control will also be activated. Now we will have thumbnails of 3/12 width and 4/12 height calculated on the container available with. The Metro option is generally used with block layout content overlay, so let's set this option too. Let's save the options and see what happens. Wow, as you can see now, all the thumbnails have a perfect ratio of 3/4. If I set width 3/12 width and 3/12 height, we will have squares. That's it. You can define any type of grid you want based on the possible divisions of 1 to 12. This option doesn't seem to be anything special when using thumbnails of the same size. After all, this could be done also with a simple Masonry layout created with the media ratio set to 1:1 to have squares of the same size. But combining it with the options of the tab Single, where you can define a matrix of variations, you understand all its power. I premise that in the video tutorial Post Single Variations, the options of this tab are explained in detail. So now I'm moving faster. Here we have the bi-matrix method with a repeater of 3 elements. I modify the first block and make it twice the default size. So let's set 6/12 both for the width and for the height. Let's save the module. Perfect. As you can see, the first thumbnail is double the others, and thanks to the Metro layout, the grid is always perfect. And of course, the pattern repeats every 3 elements. Obviously, the filters and everything else continues to work like a normal Masonry module. Let's filter for ADV, or let's filter Web, and revert to Show All. Let's remove the single items diversification to continue the tutorial. Here we are with our base square-based layout. When you select the Metro layout, there is another interesting setting, the Fluid Heights option. When this option is activated, the heights are set to be relative to the browser window height, instead of using the normal Metro calculations, which are on a scale relative to the container width. To better understand this option, let's remove the filter. And let's remove the padding from the row. This helps us to understand the fluid settings. Alright, here we are with a full screen grid that occupies all the available space. And let's go back to the Module tab options where we were. When the Fluid Heights option is active, it is then possible to create thumbnails that fit perfectly to the browser height. We move to the Blocks tab and set the height to be 50%. As you can see, our thumbnails occupy half of the browser height perfectly. Pretty interesting, right? I can also try other variations, such as 100%. In these cases, the height will be exactly the same as the browser, and associate this with a width of 6/12. Amazing, what a change. Now we have 2 big thumbnails next to each other that match the browser perfectly. Is Uncode a pixel-perfect theme? Yes, it is. So far, we have seen the options in order to make you understand the most important settings and allow you to have full control. But you always have the Wireframes plugin with more than 400 sections ready to be imported. So you can start with one of these grid presets and then easily modify them according to your needs. Here it is. In just one click, I imported in the page this amazing grid variation. Let's take a look at the Media Gallery module. I anticipated at the beginning of the video, the media gallery and the post modules are basically the same and differ in very few options. There are the various layout modes. You can see that the settings are pretty similar in all the tabs. For example, we have the gap control. We can test a double gap, or we can test a half gap. There are the element section, the off-grid options, the breakpoints. There is the block layout setting, the width control. We can test 6/12 or 2/12. Let's set 3/12. This is the aspect ratio. For example, let's test a vertical format like 3/4 or a square format like 1/1. Or use the natural upload ratio. Without going too far, you can see that the settings are the same of the post module. One of the few options in which they differentiate is the Justify mode. That, unlike the previous layouts modes, is only available for media galleries. If you want to create a gallery using the Justify layout, select Justified under the General tab Layout drop-down in your media gallery settings. The Justify layout is an excellent choice for professional photographers who want to create a modern image gallery that fluidly manages thumbnails of various sizes. This layout does the hard work for you. All you need to do is set a row height, and your media thumbnails will be automatically resized to create a gallery that is perfectly justified on every side. This is the mode layout that emulates Google Images, Flickr, and other popular image sites. For my personal taste, it looks amazing. Small gaps like 1 pixel or 0 pixel, even if it supports all gap values, and especially it looks amazing with full width, no padding layout. You can then set your desired row height under the Module tab and everything adjusts accordingly. Here it is. Very nice, modern and clean. Are you ready to start creating with Uncode? Thanks to all these options combined together, you can create any type of grids.